Hey there, 8th graders. We're back with the last lesson of the week. Thanks for following along. Thanks for participating this week. We're going to spend one more day thinking about tough questions. We have looked at contrasts and contradictions, otherwise known as irony. We have looked at at aha moments, or the climax, turning point of a story. And we have started to look at the conflict, or what we used to call the tough question. So once again, signposts are signals that make us stop and think. We're zeroing in on the questions we have to ask when we come to a signpost. We're trying to get inside the character's head, trying to understand what the author is getting across to us when we pause. And this is what good readers do. And it's going to help you as a reader and a writer if you can ask these questions. So our first thing was a verbal, situational, or dramatic irony. And the question we ask when we run into irony is, why is the character doing that? Why is the character doing that? So again, if we're thinking about Finding Dory and Bruce the Shark liking fish as friends, not food, we're going to realize when we ask the question, why is the character doing that? He's doing that because he wants to be a better shark. He wants to reach out and be friends with other animals and stop eating them. So it tells us something about Bruce's character, about his motivation, about who he is. The next question, or the next signpost we looked at, was the turning point or climax. This is the aha moment, what we called the aha moment in 7th grade. And the question we ask when we come to a turning point in the story is, how might this change things? So again, our example of the hare and the tortoise, right? The hare and the tortoise are going along. And when the tortoise crosses the finish line, that's a turning point or a climax in the story, one of them. And the rabbit's going to realize how it's going to change him. How is it going to change him that the tortoise, the slow old tortoise, beat the hare? Well, maybe the hare's not going to be so quick to boast next time. Maybe he's going to find a different career than running. We're going to ask the question, how might the turning point or climax change things? Our signpost this week that we've been focusing on in the last half of this week has been conflict. Conflict or tough questions. And we looked at different kinds of conflict. We looked at internal, external, man versus self, man versus society, and man versus nature. Internal, external conflict, tough questions that we have to ask ourselves. So when we come to conflict in the story, we need to ask ourselves, what does this conflict or this question, this tough question, make me wonder about? So I'm going to share, let me come over and change what I'm sharing here. I'm going to share this fun little poem by Shel Silverstein. And I want us to think about what the conflict is in the story, in the poem. Following the trail on the old treasure map, I came to the spot that said dig right here. And 4 feet down, my spade struck wood, just where the map said a chest would appear. But carved in the side were written these words, a curse upon he who disturbs this gold. Signed Morgan the pirate, scourge of the seas. I read these words and my blood ran cold. So here I sit upon untold wealth, trying to figure out which is worse. How much do I need this gold, and how much do I need this curse? That's the poem, and we see right away the conflict, right? He has the chest of gold, and he's sitting here. Do I open it and risk the curse, or do I just leave it behind and not get the gold? Do you see the tough question or conflict here? And when we come back and we ask ourselves, what does this conflict make me wonder about? It makes me wonder about the narrator, the poet's values. Does he value the gold so much that he's going to risk the treasure or not? What is he going to do? So often when we think about conflict, when we think about tough questions, the basic question is, what is he going to decide? And when we think about what he's going to decide in the conflict, it tells us something about the person, about the character. So for today, I need you to start on your own conflict. Let's spend just a couple more minutes thinking about conflict. I went through this with you somewhat previously, but there are 2 kinds of conflict to start at the top level: external versus internal. External conflict takes place outside the body. Internal conflict takes place inside your heart, your mind, your body. It's something within you. So For external conflict, there are three, people divide this out different ways, but we're going to keep it simple today. Just think about three basic types of conflict. Man versus man. The most straightforward type of conflict pits the protagonist directly against another character with apparently opposing aims. So the assignment yesterday, you can see the GOP elephant and the Democratic donkey here. And it's man versus man. They're fighting against each other. External, another kind, is man versus nature. Think about firefighters. Think about a man with a dog. Think about the story, The Call of the Wild. This type of conflict pits a story's main character or characters against a natural force, such as a flood, a predatory animal, or a disease epidemic. Now, does that mean that as we fight COVID, this is man versus nature? Absolutely. Another kind is man against society. Man versus society. External conflict in many stories. The protagonist battles an unjust element of government or culture. If you know the stories, the books about Katniss, and she's fighting this unjust society that has young people fighting to their death. That's man against society in many ways. There's really only one type of internal conflict. Man versus self. Self versus self. Some literary conflicts take the form of a character struggling to overcome fear, addiction, emotional damage, or other crippling personal issues. You just have to make a decision and decide what you're going to do. And it's between you and yourself. So I'm going to show these. What is this? It's man versus... I'll wait. Yep, this is man versus nature. There's a flood. It's cold. His house is flooded. Very flooded. That's an understatement. Man versus nature. This one, I don't totally know what's going on here. I was going to say man versus machine. Maybe the person here is a little bit insane. But the basic idea is it's man, either man versus himself or man versus the machine. You'll have to think about that story and what it means to you. What's this one? Well, obviously, this is man versus man. Looks like a man versus woman in this case, but a man versus man. They're fighting against each other, right? This one here, we have a prisoner and we have a judge. This is man versus society. Man versus society. If you've ever watched the musical Les Miserables, that's very much man versus society story, fighting against injustice. So Black Lives Matter, it seems like a lot of those who are allies with Black Lives Matter, who are standing up for black people, that would very much be a man versus society, people versus society, injustice. Man versus nature again. And again, another man versus society, a person protesting war. Man versus man. Get the idea? Okay. Let's turn it over to you now. And I'm just going to give you one little model that you can use to write your own conflict or tough question. I want you to listen carefully, and this is going to be on the Google Classroom too. Write at least one paragraph. What's a paragraph? At least 3 sentences about one idea, describing a tough question you or someone you know experienced. And here's a suggested structure. The first sentence should or could tell us what the tough question is. You can state it just like that. One conflict I faced was blank, or one time I faced a tough question, ... The second sentence should simply tell us what was decided. After thinking for a long time, we decided that ... Or to resolve the conflict, we had to ... Okay? Second sentence tells us what was decided or what was done. The third sentence tell us what the decision shows up you or shows about you, if it's about you or if it's about someone else. So the third sentence could say, by solving it this way, it showed that we can overcome blah, blah, blah. Or when we decided to do this, it showed that this is the most important thing to us. Something like that. So that's the paragraph, and you're going to need to start working on it today, and we'll go into Monday, keep working on it. I'll give you some feedback on Monday, and then Tuesday, we will share those with the class. So I'll look forward to that. One other thing I need you to do, I need you to just tell me what kind of conflict it is. Is it man versus self, man versus nature, man versus man versus society, or man versus machine? So those are the questions, and that's what you need to do. Look for the template on this assignment, and I hope you have a great weekend.